Today on the podcast, we have Peter Keller, the CEO of Fringe Sport. Peter, would you mind just giving us a quick little intro as to who you are?
Man, who am I not? International man of mystery, all that stuff. And you call me the CEO of Fringe Sport. You know, honestly, the title that I give myself is Assistant Pig Keeper, which is a reference to a fantasy book from way back when. And that's me saying that I took out the trash yesterday. So CEO, gotcha. And it's a cool company, but, you know, it's this and that. That said, you know, I founded it out of my garage in 2010. I was working in e-commerce at the time, and I had gotten bit by the CrossFit bug, and I was like, CrossFit's going to change the world. And then I read episode number 2 of the CrossFit Journal, and edition number 2 is the Garage Gym. And it was like Greg Glassman was speaking directly to me. And so I lied to my wife and told her that if she moved her car out of the garage temporarily, I would reorganize stuff and take my bay of the garage into a garage gym. Then she could put her car back in the garage. And I had to tell you, her car, that was 2005. Her car's never been back in the garage since then. So apologies, Valerie.
Oh, probably a story that many of the listeners have as well.
Yeah. So I then, you know, was building my garage gym, doing CrossFit stuff, falling in love with Oli and other things. You know, CrossFit's a gateway drug to strength. And I played rugby for the University of Texas really poorly. So if anybody's like, oh yeah, Peter was a rugby star, like, nah, I was the worst person on the rugby team, and they take everybody who comes. So I didn't know anything about strength, honestly. So we didn't have an S&C program. And through CrossFit, I started learning about strength. Like I mentioned, I built out the garage gym. I was also in e-commerce. That was my profession. I was working for another company, and I thought, CrossFit's going to change the world. It's harder to buy this stuff than it should be. So I'm going to see if I can try my hand at doing my own thing and selling barbells to people who care a little too much about barbells. And that was 2010. I did it on the side for a year. Then I quit my 6-figure job and didn't take a paycheck for 10 months. And we were just basically off to the races. And now we're knocking on the door at 2023, and I'm in this 3-warehouse complex in North Austin, Texas. And we're selling barbells to people who care a little too much about barbells.
Awesome. Okay. So I guess I'm going to ask you how that very first year went after this. But today, how is Fringe Sport different than some of its other competitors, or what's its differentiator?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. You know, I always like to follow it up with a question. What do you think our differentiator is? I'm wildly curious to what you think.
Me, I think a lot of it comes from you. I think you're a unique guy, you know, just based off the title you gave yourself. I've been receiving your emails for years. They're very unique and they're very good. I think you're just the way, and if you browse the website, the product descriptions are unlike just about anybody else out there. So I think you do a really good job of being really creative in that realm. And I imagine once you get a customer, once you get that type of customer, they're willing to stick with you for a really long time just because they like your personality and just the vibe that you guys have. I wouldn't say you're the most hardcore weightlifting company. So that's what I would say off the top of my head. Didn't prepare for that one, but
that's what we call in sales a reverse. When somebody asks you a question, you reverse it and you put it back on them. From the beginning in my garage, I had a really simple philosophy. I thought that if we provided great products at a great price and we back them with world-class customer support, that was going to be a winning formula. And just to be honest, when I think about it in my mind, that's still what we're doing today.
Yeah.
But in terms of what makes us different, you had mentioned before, you know, me. Yeah, a lot of my personality goes into the company for good and for ill. And we can certainly talk about how it's for ill. I've had some big misses on products because I either thought that something was not cool or I thought something was cool and I was completely out of step on those things. But back to that, great products, great price, world-class customer support. So for me, what we're really doing is, from a brand perspective, is strength for smart people and garage gym revolution. That's what I think of when I think of the Fringe brand. And, maybe I don't get it out there well enough, but let's start with the garage gym revolution. We are a garage gym company. Now, we also sell to tons of commercial gyms. I like to call them local community gyms. I name check CrossFit 5 times already in this, this recording. And that's where a lot of it started for us. To be clear, we're not a CrossFit company, but that model of the box, the local community gym, love that stuff. And we support those guys all day long. That said, what's happening right now is garage gym revolution. There is a sea change in behavior. I mean, you're hearing it about hiring, right? Like everybody's going remote, or many, let's say white collar jobs are going remote. And that is being paralleled by a movement for gyms, where if you're remote from work, you might have a gym in your garage because you're remote from the gym, so to speak. So this is the remote gym revolution, not just the remote work revolution. And then now strength for smart people. So you had said we're not as hardcore. Everybody in this market is hardcore. Hardcore. As that hardcore goes, like look at if you're not in our community, look at what is the stereotype of a strong person. Strong and dumb. There's this Planet Fitness commercial. I lift things up and put them down. I don't know if you've seen that. Maybe you could cut this in, or somebody else could go find it on YouTube. But that's the stereotype of a, weak person, or someone who's not in our community, hasn't received the good word of strength, so to speak. That's what they think about a strong person. But the reality is there's a strong correlation, if you look at the scientific studies, between strength and intelligence, between strength and longevity of life, between strength and longevity of useful life. And so when you talk about us not being hardcore, this like hardcore image, and like let's say West Side Barbell, love those guys, but hard to get more hardcore than West Side Barbell. But if you're a coder at Facebook, Meta, whatever, and you don't have a ton of strength background, and you watch some West Side Barbell YouTube videos or whatever, you're gonna be like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And which again, just to be clear, no disrespect to West Side, love what they've done and what they're doing. But that hardcore image pushes away a large group of people for whom strength could be life-changing. So one of the things that we talk about here is stronger is better. We're not meaning if you're quote unquote weak, go pound sand or whatever. But what we're meaning is that a little bit of strength makes you a little bit better. And it's simpler, not easy, but simpler to get stronger than most people think it is. And so we do steer into more of a approachable and like humorous, sometimes quirky, even mindset to try and bring more people in. And then with the equipment, I always try to strip everything down to its most simple. Like Einstein said, make everything as simple as possible, but no simpler. And that's our philosophy with equipment. So anyways, I've been talking a lot. You haven't been talking at all. So I'll throw it back over to you.
Follow-up question. I mean, you mentioned so when I think of most companies that are trying to get the more successful people, or just smarter people, they have a 9-to-5 job, most likely in an office, probably have, work their brains hard. It's companies like Peloton or Tonal. And those are the companies that you don't really see a lot of the marketing from weight machine or gym equipment suppliers with weights targeting that group. Would you agree with that? I
do agree with that. Oh my gosh, I got so much to say on that.
Say it.
Okay. So who am I? I'm just some dude in Austin, Texas, right? I have a successful company, but I'm, not listed on the U.S. stock exchange. Peloton's a multi-billion-dollar company. But what they're selling, in my opinion, is they're selling the stock. They're selling the company. They're not selling the product. And by the way, I have a lot of respect for what Peloton is doing. What I also say is everyone's fighting the couch. But when you talk about, so I'm obsessed personally, and this flows into Fringe, with how people improve their lives through strength. And so I see that from our clients, our customers, and I see that from other people. And one of the common threads that I pull out of this is that complexity kills. And so when you have a Peloton, okay, let me put it this way. Go to Facebook Marketplace. I mean, you don't need to do it right now. But if somebody's watching or listening, go to Facebook Marketplace and search Peloton and look at how many bikes you're going to see on that Facebook Marketplace listing, and look at the pictures of those bikes. Like you're going to see 1 million of those freaking bikes. And half of those bikes are going to have like clothes hanging, like laid over them or whatever, or obvious signs of a lack of use. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to break things down to simplicity. So I'm a big believer in some of the tenets, let's say, of the paleo diet, and the ideological, probably it's the wrong word, reason that I believe in the paleo diet is that you're in my hardware, our bodies, these things were perfected, 50,000 years ago. But now we have a proliferation of food, we have a proliferation of, Peloton tonal, stuff like that, that we could use, but really our body was built for some of these ancestral ways. So back to what you were saying about Peloton, they're a great company, but they're kind of a marketing company, great company. A lot of people are doing great things there, but they're a marketing company. And what I'm trying to do is trying to say, hey, it's worthwhile to learn how to use a barbell, a set of weight plates, a squat rack, a pull-up bar, and a bench. And 99.9% of humanity can get their strength, their health, their fitness, their physique, whatever they're looking for, into an amazing place with some very simple tools and learning how to use those tools. Now, it's a more difficult marketing message than Peloton, which is order the bike and connect to the internet, that sort of thing. So I think I wandered a little bit on your question, but that's the difference. I believe in those very fundamental tools of fitness, and we're promulgating those tools, selling them to people, and then helping them through our content and through our outreach with how they use those to change their lives and the lives of their loved ones.
Cool. Makes sense to me. Interesting to hear your perspective on that. All right. Let's talk about let's go back to your story though. I would love to just hear, you mentioned started out of your garage, 2010, caught the bug. You quit your job. You worked for 10 months without, I think you said without making any no money. Pay. What did those 10 months look like?
They sucked, but they're great too. Part of them sucking, like I got during those 10 months leaner than I've ever got. And by the way, like God intended me to lift heavy things and go long distances and not have abs. But during that period, like that's just me, like I'm blocky, right? I'm meaty and I embrace that. But during that period, I got my body fat way below, but below 10%. And it was because I was working in an unair conditioned warehouse in Austin, Texas through the summer. And then I was CrossFitting as well. And so I had CrossFit, 4 days a week or maybe 5, I can't remember. And then I'd be shipping from our warehouse 5 or 6 days a week and just sweating balls. So, yeah. But other things about that first period, and I do want to mention that I had a co-founder, my brother, Alex Keller. He also quit his job and was working without pay alongside me. But yeah, I mean, it was a heady and exciting time. We weren't making anything, but we were growing like crazy. Because, start a business unless you're a genius or smarter than I am anyways, you don't make any money. You're trying to find product market fit. And for us, that all like coincided and came together on one day, which is actually Black Friday of oh shoot, I'm forgetting right now, 2010, I think it's 2011, Black Friday 2011. But yeah, so I think the hardest part of it for me was convincing my wife, with whom I had a 2-year-old child, and she was pregnant, that her husband, who's a corporate executive with a cushy 6-figure job and expense account, all that stuff, has this crazy idea to sell barbells to randos and thinks that he's going to change the world. And also, incidentally, they're going to make a lot, going to make a lot of money doing that. But God bless her, she said, hey, I'm all in. I'm following you. So I did quit my job. I did a lot of weird things with my job that I only now, years later, realized it's weird. I went to my boss and I told him, so I was reporting to the CEO at the time, and I told him I was quitting, and then I gave him a 6-page plan for exactly what I thought he should do to replace me, and then some ruminations on the role and how to run the company and stuff like that. And then I also told him that, I didn't realize that people don't do that. So there are a lot of things that I didn't realize that people don't do. But I also told him I'm quitting, but I'm happy to stick around as long as he wanted me to. And we kind of negotiated around, and I ended up staying at the role 3 months after I quit. And I moved people into place. I implemented about half of the plan that I had told him I thought should be implemented, and then went off on my own. And I mean, it was a heady, exhilarating time. Like I was following my dreams. And in terms of like not being, paid, I mean, that's just startup stuff, ramen life, like that's what you have to go through. And by the way, when I started paying myself, I paid myself $10 an hour for 40 hours a week salary. So if you can multiply 10 by 40, it's $400 a week. Although I was working way more than 40 hours a week, but it was still exciting. Like I was following my dream. I was doing what I want to do. And what really fulfills me is just getting the feedback from customers that they're doing amazing things with our barbells, our weight plates, bumpers, kettlebells, all that stuff. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but yeah, that's what it was like. It was exciting.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. Do you remember what the very first product was?
Yep, pair of gymnastics rings. I had also from the CrossFit, this is actually from the CrossFit forums, I had tried to buy gymnastics rings at that time, and it was pretty hard to do. And so I don't know if you remember this or how long you've been in the game, but there are these rings called purse rings that are components to industrial fishing nets. I haven't searched for them for years. I'm sure you could just Google purse rings. And they're similarly dimensioned to gymnastics rings, and they're very sturdy because they're designed to be used in industrial fishing nets. And so if you wanted some gymnastics rings at your house, you basically bought Olympics grade wooden gymnastics rings for hundreds of dollars, or you bought purse rings that were, again, fishing implements. Or there's a kid named Tyler, I'm forgetting Tyler's last name, that he sold some gymnastics rings, also pretty expensive. They're good, but very expensive. Or I saw on the CrossFit forums, you could go to Home Depot, you could buy PVC pipe, I think Schedule 40, but I could be messing that up. You could cut it to length, you could bake it in your oven, and then you could bring it in your garage from the oven wearing oven mitts. You could like bend it around a paint can. And so I did that. Man. And so that's how I made my gymnastics rings. And I was like, there's got to be an easier way. So my very first product was I went and I sourced some gymnastics rings that were injection molded. And those sold like hotcakes, sold them online. I was an online marketing guy and direct consumer brand today. So that was my first product. And I was selling people all these gymnastics rings. And so I thought, well, you know what? I wonder if I can sell people kettlebells. So kettlebells were my second product. So I went and I got some kettlebells from Troy Barbell in Houston, Texas. And then I could sell people kettlebells. So I thought, well, I wonder if I could sell people bumper plates. And then I could sell people bumper plates. And so then that's when things started to come together, and there was like that watershed moment, which, by the way, I was doing this all out of my garage. I had dismantled my garage gym. It's like sad day, cry a tear, and racked it out and was selling all this stuff out of my garage gym. I was still working at that time when I had it all in my garage gym, and I'd wake up early and would answer customer service questions and get orders ready to ship. And then I would drive to work, and on my lunch break, I would run by the post office, drop a ton of stuff off, And then after work, I would answer more customer service questions, do marketing, all this stuff. But again, it was exciting. Like things were growing. It was badass.
Right. When did you think your company was going to make it? Or when did you know you were going to make it past that, like, you know, you're where you thought you'd get to today, or you knew you'd still be around today, I guess?
I don't know if I'll be around tomorrow, my man. No, I'm just kidding. The future is uncertain. But in seriousness, it was Black Friday, and I'm so irritated I'm forgetting. I think it's Black Friday 2011. So what happened was Black Friday 2011, we were like, hey, let's have a Black Friday sale, me and my partner. And so we threw some discounts on for Black Friday, and then we rolled up to our warehouse, which we were subleasing a really tiny warehouse in South Austin. And the warehouse was locked up and we couldn't get in. I mean, we had keys normally, right? But we couldn't get in. The deadbolt was thrown from the inside. And we're like, what the hell? And so we pounded the door, like bam, 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 bam. And after pounding on the door for like 20 minutes, which by the way was noisy, we hear a ton of noise coming from in there. Pounding the door for 20 minutes, we're like, what the hell? Like, we got a Black Friday sale going on. And rock and roll band comes to the door and is like, what the hell are you doing pounding on the door? And we're like, this is our warehouse. And they said, no, we rented it out. We're shooting a music video in this warehouse. And, you know, this is Austin, Texas, live music capital of the world. And so we're like, where did that happen? And they said, oh, we rented it from your landlord. Because, again, we were subleasing.
Right.
So we're like, oh, holy crap. And so we said, okay, we need to get in there for 30 minutes, and we're going to drag all of our inventory out just to the drive in front of the warehouse. And they said, fine, you got 30 minutes. So we dragged it all out, and we started just shipping from there, set up our printer, you know, outdoors, and
wow.
You know, we're shipping from there. And then the crazy thing happened. This old Jetta, it's kind of a hoopty Jetta, rolls up, and Kara and Raul and Joe get out. They see like all the bumper plates and they get super excited, and they bought every single bumper plate that we had. They were starting up a gym and they bought every single bumper plate they had. I still remember it took 3 trips with that Jetta, and you know, the suspension is like bottomed out with every trip in the back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to kill the suspension. And then we're like, they bought all our bumper plates. Like, what are we going to do about the online sale? So we ended up resupplying, because at the time we were buying from Troy Barbell in Houston, and we resupplied, and you know, it took a little longer to ship. But I think we did like $30,000 worth of business on that day. And like, that was the day when we realized, so tech companies call it product market fit. You have a product that you've made. There's a market that may or may not want your product. And if there's product market fit, your product fits the market demand. And so that was the day that I realized that we had product market fit. And really, that's the day. So up until then, I've been doing this, and my partner had been doing this both as a side hustle. I had read the 4-Hour Work Week. It really changed my life. I'd also read Tony Hsieh from Zappos, Delivering Happiness. That had also been very formative to me. And I was trying to do this thing on the side, but that's when I realized we had something here, because the customers were responding to it. And I also realized that it would never be a great side hustle, but it could be a great company. And that's when I started seriously basically talking to my wife, because she didn't really sign up in life to be the wife of an entrepreneur. I love her very deeply. She loves me very deeply. We you know, do very well together. But I think that if you talk to her when she was 18 or 25 or whatever, I think she would say, I would love to have a husband that is a corporate executive, which is what I was, that makes a lot of money, which is what I was doing. And we have like, you know, the banger Hawaii vacation every summer, and we've got 2.5 children and a picket fence and that sort of thing. And I basically blew that up and said, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, and, you know, we can still do a lot of these things, but the order might be a little bit different. And so that was, you know, really big. I know I've talked about Valley, my wife, a lot, but it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, what about the term? So I feel like you guys kind of coined the term Garage Gym Revolution.
Yeah, Garage Gym Revolution, GGR.
Before COVID, right?
Yep.
Where most people say that the garage gym revolution happened there. From what I remember, you guys were saying that before that.
We were.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about, let me give it, I'll say something real quick. So I remember, you mentioned, I'm not sure how long you've been in the game, but I've been doing this for about 6 years. And I remember like I had just had my first kid, and I remember just like going to the gym at 5, 6 a.m., going into work, and then coming home, finally seeing my daughter for the first time all day. And I was like, this just feels wrong. I started a home gym, started working out in the home gym, and like quickly found, as you did probably, that this was just helping my life a lot. It just was very simply helping my life. And I started something, and that it just felt like this was going to happen. So, and I'm sure that was how you felt as well. It sounds like a relatively similar, like before the actual revolution happened, you just kind of felt something. So garage gym revolution, the term, is that kind of how it came about? Some like that kind of mindset, or just curious?
Yeah, for sure. And I had told you before we started recording that I can talk. So buckle up. So I've realized that I can see things that are coming before they hit. And sometimes, like let's say this is a big miss for me. I remember the first time I heard about Bitcoin, it was, and by the way, I'm not a crypto bro. This is not turning into that. This is actually almost the opposite of that. I remember when I first heard about Bitcoin, when it was super, super cheap, and I was like, this is really interesting. And I thought about getting into it because I thought, again, very interesting. I can see that this is going somewhere. And then I was like, nah, I'm not going to get into it. And then, Bitcoin blew up, and I'm like, holy crap. I went back and looked at the calendar for when I was thinking about getting into it. And I was like, if I just set that, I thought about setting one of my spare laptops to mine. If I had done that, I would be a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
And I thought Bitcoin was going to change the world, and in one way or another, it did. So that's just the crypto way. But I've seen that in a lot of different areas, and now I'm trying to jump on it much more. And when I see things that are coming, and make something happen. So back to what I mentioned to you before, when I read Greg Glassman's, The Garage Gym.
Yeah.
Episode number 2 of the CrossFit Journal. So I was already bought in. Episode number 1 of the CrossFit Journal is What is Fitness? And it made a ton of sense to me. That's when I started to believe. So I read that in 2005, and I thought CrossFit is going to change the fitness world. I read The Garage Gym, also in 2005, or maybe it's 2006, whenever it came out. And I thought, so one sentence in there, The Garage Gym, you can build a world-class strength and conditioning facility in your garage. And then that episode told you how to do it in like 6 pages. And I thought, this is going to change the world. So that was in 2005 or 2006, before I founded Fringe Sport. And then I saw CrossFit blow up between 2005 and 2010. I was on the CrossFit forums when Bill Henniger and, I'm forgetting this gentleman's name, but there's a doctor who was all over the CrossFit forums who was talking about stuff, when they basically got together and founded Rogue Fitness. And I remember like literally my fingers were on the keyboard. Like I was thinking about saying something, I'll jump in with you guys. But to be clear, I never did do that. I have no relationship with Rogue Fitness, although love a lot of the good work that they do and hate a few things that they do. But in any case, so I didn't jump in then. But when I saw things changing, I thought garage gym revolution is coming. And pre-pandemic, I saw that CrossFit was shifting, and I saw that what people were doing was shifting. And we did a lot of I'm a marketer. I mean, I'm many things. I'm a CrossFitter, I'm a lifter, I'm a father, I'm a jerk, whatever. I'm a lot of things, but I'm a marketer. And so one of the things that I realized fairly early on when we were polling our customers is that many more of our customers than I had realized were putting the stuff they were buying from us, the bumper plates, the barbells, things like that, in their garages. And so I was like, wow, this thing started out of my garage. I read the garage gym and made a garage gym. Then I dismantled my garage gym to do this company. And now, because we initially were not marketing to garage gymmers, so to speak, we were marketing, quote unquote, to CrossFitters. That's how we started. But when we pulled them, so many of them were putting the gear in their garages. And so I thought, okay, nobody is focusing on garage gyms right now. And this, I believe, is the coming thing. And by the way, so there's another thing in marketing where they talk about you should niche down until it hurts. The way to know that you're appropriately niched is that you should be so focused that you're worried that you're too focused. And so that's the way that I was about garage gyms. I was so focused that I was worried that I was too focused. And, there had to be kind of a leap of faith there in, 2007, let's say, that this actually made sense. So now let's talk about the pandemic. Am I talking too much?
Okay.
You want me to keep going?
No, let's hear it.
Okay. So there's this idea. I read a lot and I study a lot. So there's this idea about the diffusion of innovation. And there's this gentleman named Jeffrey Moore. And so what he basically says is that innovation diffuses into society basically along a bell curve. And I just drew a little diagram here. And so a bell curve is a standard distribution. You've got a tail at one end, then it gets fatter, 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 fatter. Then you have the mean or like the middle of it, and then it gets narrower, 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 and then you have another tail at the end. And so and I think somebody other than Jeffrey Moore came up with this, but we'll talk about Jeffrey Moore in a minute. So basically the idea is that whenever an innovation or something starts to move into society, so think about the adoption of cars. If you had gone back to 1850 and you had said, horses are not the coming thing. In 100 years, very few people are going to use horses for locomotion. They would say, oh, you're crazy. But in 1905 or whatever, people started, I may be getting these years slightly wrong, by the way, people started making commercial automobiles, and they started catching on. And then by 1950 or whatever, like every decently wealthy family had at least one automobile. And up till now, almost every family has at least one automobile. And so when you think about, like I said, diffusion of innovation, you've got some innovators in 1905, and then you've got, mainstream people in 1950, and then in, 1970 or whatever, basically everybody has a car. Again, might be getting those years slightly wrong. So that's how innovations, which is cell phone use, broadband internet, all this stuff basically follows this same path. So what Jeffrey Moore said in, I think, the 80s, he said, well, there's a bell curve, but there's actually a gap between the early people and then the early majority, so the fat part. So he drew his bell curve, and his bell curve has got a little jump or a gap in it. And I'm just drawing this out, I'm not sure. So you've got this little gap here in the bell curve, and he calls that the chasm. And he talks about crossing the chasm, and that usually something needs to happen to kick things over that chasm. Otherwise, they never really diffuse into the world. And so for us, the pandemic was the thing that kicked the garage gym revolution across that chasm. So before the pandemic, so if you think about it this way also, or I'll share with our customers. Before the pandemic, I was selling to people who looked like me or you. They had they had one or maybe multiple gym memberships. They had either a high school or collegiate or pro athletic background. A lot of them had military service. Basically, my customers knew what a barbell was and knew what to do with it. So we got a lot of questions pre-pandemic. Right. What's the tensile strength of this bar? What's the whip of this bar? What's the spin of this bar? That sort of thing. Then when the pandemic started to go into full steam, we got, what kind of weights fit on this bar? Or I bought a standard bar, and then I bought your weights and they don't fit on my standard bar. Standard bar is one of the worst named bars in the history of marketing or whatever, let's say. So what had happened was we were no longer selling to people who look like you or me. We were selling to that early majority who may have had a gym membership but didn't attend the gym, probably don't have a high school or collegiate or definitely not pro athletic background, and usually don't have a military background. So I'd been glib earlier and said, hey, pre-pandemic, we were selling to people who knew what a barbell was and knew what to do with it. Early pandemic, we were selling to people who knew what a barbell was, but didn't know what to do with it, really. And that's where we are now. And so you had talked about, like, when we started talking about the garage gym revolution, I have to go back and look, but it was like 2016, 2017, where I knew it was going to be a thing. I didn't know that COVID was going to come. And, I didn't know that was going to push it over, but I believed in what we were doing. And now, I've been vindicated, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that so many people are taking their own strength, their own health, their own fitness in their own hands, building out a gym in their garage, which, by the way, could be the closet of their apartment, could be their spare bedroom, could be the backseat of the trunk of their car, and are changing their lives and the lives of their loved ones through strength.
Awesome. That was a really good way to put it. I like how you come from I come from the tech world as well. So a lot of your references make a lot of sense to me. Cool. So let me ask, I would just be curious to hear how you mentioned how you first started, but how did Fringe evolve over the past 10 years or so? If you could put that in a nutshell.
Oh my goodness. There's been so much. Yeah. I told you before and many times I can talk. Putting it in a nutshell, a little bit more difficult. But let me just a couple of things I think are really interesting. So we started off and I thought that I was founding a CrossFit equipment company. And then I got a bunch of cease and desist letters saying that CrossFit was going to sue me. And so clearly I did not, just to be crystal clear, found a CrossFit equipment company then or now. So I would say, and I've already name checked this a little bit, one of my big sea changes for Fringe is when we had surveyed the customers and overwhelmingly people were putting things in their garage and building garage gyms, which, by the way, it's interesting. People they don't have a car in their garage. Then they remove the car and then they build a garage gym. They have clutter in their garage. Their car is already in the driveway or on the street. I don't know that is interesting, but it's interesting to me because, again, we're doing more. Sorry, go ahead.
Notice that all the time when I'm driving or when I'm walking around my neighborhood. So, well, if you look at, and we should do better about this, but there are a few companies that do really good, like garage makeovers. The garage makeover before shot is almost never a car in a garage. It is a cluttered garage. So people are already not parking in their garage. It's just cluttered, and then they're building it into a garage gym. But anyways, I digress. But back to, some sea changes is when we were surveying the customers and realizing that most of our customers or a majority of our customers were putting these products in their garage and building awesome garage gyms, which, like I said, for me, brought me back to square one because that's what I had done prior to founding the company. And I dismantled my garage gym to form the company. And then, like I said, that was one of my saddest days, pulling the garage gym down, or bittersweet day. And then one of my happiest days has been every time that I've rebuilt my garage gym, which I'm on, version 1000, let's say, of the garage gym. The biggest lie in garage gyms is it's done, honey. Yeah. So, but anyways, so what are a couple of other changes? And I don't talk about this publicly a lot. So my brother exited in 2015 from the company, and that sucked. That was one of the worst things in my life. It's kind of like my business divorce. It was really hard, and it really, really sucked. You start something, just to draw things that other people can connect with. You start something with a friend or a family member and you're like, hey, this is going to be amazing. We're going to go and be awesome together. And then over time, you drift apart in your vision and what you want to do. And that's what had happened between me and him. But, there's still we're brothers, we've known each other for our entire lives. And so there's still this strong desire to do stuff together, but then you also kind of want to kill each other at the same time. And so, not a great mix for business. So that was really, really, really difficult, really difficult. And, something else about that is
we had built an awesome business at that time. And I ended up raising capital and bringing in an investor and buying him out. And that was crazy. It was, I'm trying to, it was so hard. I talk about it being my business divorce, with Fringe being my baby and me loving my brother, loving him deeply, but it just wasn't working anymore. And then, had to go and raise over $1 million and exit him from the business. And I don't know if you read, I did a Reddit AMA recently, I raised more than $1 million to buy him out. And it wasn't personally guaranteed, but it was kind of personally guaranteed. Like my ass was on the line to pay back over $1 million. And, that's part of entrepreneurship, but it's also, I don't know if you have ever owed somebody $1 million, but, I think about that at night. You know what I mean? So, paid every penny back. And so that's, good stuff. But that was also a turning point. So I really think of that as Fringe 1.0 was product market fit through. So like Fringe 0.0 was just me and my brother diddling around. Hustling on the side. Fringe 1.0 was us growing it from nothing to 5 million in revenue, and then me exiting him. And then Fringe 2.0 was basically from the exit through the pandemic, and now we're basically in Fringe 3.0. And the pandemic was another massive, massive change where there was an incredible. So I've been in e-commerce as an employee or running Fringe since 2001, and I've never seen demand like the pandemic. I just think of it in my mind. I personify it as a dragon. And a dragon wants to eat, and anything you throw into the dragon's mouth, it just wants more and more and more, which is great, for me as a business, great for our clients, because so many people we get to welcome to the Garage Gym Revolution is truly awesome. That crossing the chasm, like I mentioned to you earlier, but it was also stressful. There's COVID going on. Nobody knows what the hell is happening. And it was a very, I don't know what's my responsibility to my employees in terms of keeping them healthy during COVID? What's my responsibility to our customers in terms of great product, great price, world-class customer support when, we're allowing people to pre-order and we're like, hey, this is when we think we're going to get you our product. And the customers are like, no, I need better than that. And, we say, totally understand that, but it's a global pandemic and we're doing everything we can. So what's our responsibility in that situation? But again, in the end, all good, but just interesting stuff. And now we're in the post-pandemic, I'll call it post-pandemic world. And so it's a completely different environment right now. Thank God the Garage Gym Revolution has gone mainstream or, nearly mainstream, which is fantastic for many, many different reasons, because it's changing a lot of people's lives through strength. Quite a bit for the better, but it's also, it's a weird world that we're in. Inflation, working from home, supply chain problems, freaking war in the Ukraine. It's all interesting stuff to deal with.
Yeah. So you mentioned you're in Fringe Sport 3.0. What would you say the next 5 years is going to look like, or what's your goal over the next 5 years? That's
a great question. There's actually a book that's called Life Without a Goal. And so one of the things is I'm extremely goal driven to a fault. I'm insanely goal driven. But one of the things that I've realized is in terms of setting, very specific like financial goals or these goals or things like that, it's kind of beside the point, because if we are insanely customer focused and valuable to our customers, then all this other stuff is going to follow behind it. However, if we're just, super goal driven for numbers or financial metrics or something like that, then the heart goes out of it. Back at the beginning of this call, you talked about being on our mailing list for years. Man, I used to do stupid stuff with our mailing list, and I want to do it again. I want to do it so badly. I love that stuff. So like one of the things that I did is, so every New Year's Day, so I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm a Texas guy. I'm a Southerner. And one of the Southern traditions is on New Year's, or Texas tradition is on New Year's Day, you bake up or make up a big pot of black-eyed peas and collard greens. And the black-eyed peas are for luck, and the collard greens are green, and so that's for money. But for years, I've been making a ton, like a couple of different crock pots worth of black-eyed peas. I use a Emerald Lagasse recipe that I modified a little bit, and those are some banging black-eyed peas. And then I make a ton of Brussels sprouts. I like collard greens, but I like Brussels sprouts more. And then I invite all my friends for like an open house on New Year's Day to come by my house and have some Brussels sprouts and collard greens. And so one year, I invited everyone on our email list, 50,000 people, to come to my house for Brussels sprouts and collard greens. And by the way, I didn't tell my wife about it until after I'd sent the email. And she, rightly so, Val is my wife's name, Valerie. She hit the roof. And I was like, well, I mean, by the way, she's totally right. It's a completely unreasonable and whatever thing to do to invite 100 or 50,000 people to your house, especially without telling your wife. But I did promise her to never do it again. And by the way, I am never going to do it again. But a bunch of our customers showed up to my house and had collard greens and brought their kids and dogs, and like we hung out. I loved it. Wife Val didn't like it, but I loved it.
That is wild.
And I said I won't do it again. Another thing that I did is I used to travel a lot more pre-pandemic. And when I would go to a city, I would look at our email list and I would like geofence the list to find people in that city. And then I would send out an email to everyone in that city. And I would say, hey, this is PK from Fringe Sport. I'm going to be in your city. I'd love to come by your garage gym and work out with you in your garage gym. Mm-hmm. And that was awesome. So I worked out in a bunch of our clients' garage gyms. But one time I flew into a city and I rented a Maserati. And I showed up at this guy's garage gym. I like cars. So I showed up at this guy's garage gym, and he was like, hey, I heard you roll up. Like there was some rumble there. And I was like, yeah, I rented a Maserati. And his eyes lit up. And so instead of me lifting in his garage gym, we just hooned that Mazzy all through North Carolina. It was where do you live? Anyways, so we just hooned until late. We turned that Maserati out. And then I dropped him off at 10 p.m. or whatever at his house. And I just had a blast. And so I love doing stupid things like that. I've done a bunch of other stupid things with our email list, but I'd love to get back to doing that dumb stuff. But back to Fringe. Sorry, I'm focused too much on us. So
no, you're good.
Promoting the garage gym revolution and strength for smart people. My biggest thing, again, no harshing on West Side or whatever, but there's a whole core of people who are typically white-collar workers, typically family people, and they don't understand that they hold the tools to becoming stronger and changing their life in their very hands. And I love this, and we're going to be promoting that huge out there. Then in terms of product, as it goes, I've been thinking a lot about our philosophy of product, and we're going to be bringing out a lot of innovative twists on old standards. So I mentioned before, I believe in simplicity. So I'm going to make a quick sales pitch here. So Fringe Sport makes the best bumper plates in the world. What I believe so back to simplicity, what I believe the key aspect of a bumper plate is durability. So there are a number of other aspects that make a great bumper plate, but one of the key aspects is durability. So when I talk about simplicity, a product wants to be used. So I have a knife here in my pocket. So this is a Chris Reeve Sabenza 21 small. Chris Reeve is a semi-custom knife maker out of Idaho. And when I use this knife, I think about all of the thousands of hours of design and prototyping that went into making this product and making it an awesome knife. I think it's about as perfect a knife as you can get. And it wants to be used. So now let's talk about a bumper plate. A bumper plate wants to be dropped. And if you look at a lot of the other companies that are on the market, not trying to throw shade, but just being truthful here, they have all these caveats and warnings on their bumper plate product page. Oh, drop 10-pound bumper plates from, shoulder or above voids the warranty. F that noise. A bumper plate, it's in the name, bumper. It's designed to be dropped. The Ne Plus Ultra of a bumper plate is to be durable and to be dropped. So that's what I like from a design philosophy, is saying, okay, we're going to make the most durable bumper plates in the world. How do we do that? And then we go and, make that happen. So that's what we're looking to bring to all of these. We bring it also in a lot of areas already, but looking to bring in terms of our product development and marketing. Just to be honest, I talked about simplicity earlier. I'm a big, big fan of simplicity. There are a lot of companies that are making a lot of money right now. Not trying to throw shade, but just trying to create space by making these like big, admittedly awesome squat racks with lat pull downs, this, that, and the other. The reality is a extremely well executed, simple squat rack, a barbell, some plates, a pull-up bar, a bench, maybe some dumbbells, maybe some kettlebells, can get you into literally Olympic or amazing, can get you the body of your dreams. Now, if you get all that fancy stuff and you use it, more power to you. Hell yeah. But what we're here to do is we're here to make amazing, simple products that help you change your life. I'm laughing. I went too far on my sales pitch. Sorry about that.
No, that was awesome. I think the knife was a great analogy. That knife was simple and useful and will last for many years. I think that's what you want in a barbell, or bumper plates when you buy them. So I have a Rolex on my wrist, which I just took off. But again, if you read my AMA on Reddit, I was using the Rolex as an analogy because this design of Rolex, this is a Rolex Explorer 1. It was initially designed in 1962, maybe, let's call it 1962. If I'm off, I'm not off by much. And it's been iterated since 1962, but it's never really changed. You can see the design through line all the way back to there because they got it right in 1962. And the reason that I'm joking about the Rolex now is because I mentioned that a couple of times when I read at AMA, and this one dude got so butthurt. He's like, Peter from Fringe is flexing all over the place. I get it, dude. You can afford a Rolex. And that's not the point. The point is that well-made, thoughtfully designed products bring me joy and should bring you joy. Actually, that's something I hadn't talked about up until now. One of the things, back to, I call people who aren't part of our Garage Gym Revolution normies, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but one of the things that normies don't get is that this is fun, what we do. We're not going into the gym, our garage gym, and I hate this. Why am I squatting? Whatever. From a scientific standpoint, there's literally a dopamine release when you do that lifting. But from another standpoint, GoRuck talks about embrace the suck, and that's kind of their thing. But it's that's their tagline or whatever. But we get that too. Hard things can be rewarding things. Does it feel great to do a 1 rep max of the squat? Yes and no. It feels great and terrible, but there's joy in it. When let's say there's a 1 rep max that has been elusive to you for weeks or months or years, and you do it. Not only is there the dopamine release from doing the physical activity, there's also the dopamine release because you have chased this difficult thing for months, weeks, and years, and then you achieved it. And there's value in that. And that's what we're trying to do as well. What we're trying to do as well with
excellently executed, well-designed basics and things that work. We're trying to bring joy in the gym. The most popular barbell that we sell is about a $300 barbell. Sometimes people say to me, hey, Pete, why should I buy this Wonder Bar? It's the Wonder Bar bushing is our most popular barbell. Hey, Pete, why should I buy this bar when I could go walk into a Dick's Sporting Goods or Play It Again or some sort of local, or I could go on Amazon and buy not going to name any names, but I could buy a barbell for $100 or $120. I could buy a barbell for half what your barbell costs. And what I tell them is, whatever you would use, buy it and use it with my blessing. Now, I think that the Wonder Bar is the best barbell you can buy for the price. You can get a better bar, but you can't get a better bar cheaper. And it is a joy to lift on. I've lifted on crappy barbells, and I'll lift on crappy barbells again, but they're not a joy to lift on. The knurling sucks. It doesn't feel good in your hands. They're often plated with chrome, which is slippery and maybe slips off and puts like shards into your thumbs. The spin on the collars is like unpredictable and crappy. It's just not fun. Now, if you're a driven individual, you can get strong enough to qualify for world records of the Olympics on a crap barbell. And if you're a driven individual and you don't care about your bar, I am here to support you. Do that. But if you want joy, if you want a sublime experience while you're lifting in the gym, then we're here for you. Buy something better. And we make those things. Anyways, that's more soapbox.
So what would you say your favorite product you've ever helped create would be?
Our 10-pound bumper plates. Absolutely, our 10-pound bumper plates. So I mentioned to you before that I'm a marketer. I'm also a salesperson. And this is going to be like a little bit salesy, but this is no bull. Before we came out with our 10-pound bumper plates, everyone on the market said, don't drop 10-pound plates.
Yeah.
It's okay, I'm like, this fires me up. It's ridiculous. That would be like buying a car and someone saying, don't drive the car. A bumper plate is designed to be dropped. It's designed to be dropped. So if you say, don't drop a 10-pound bumper plate, or if you drop a 10-pound bumper plate and it violates your warranty, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't thinking about doing this, at least not for you. I was going to do this for a video for our feed. Okay, this is this is one single everyday essential bumper plate from Amazon.
Okay.
Watch this stuff. Here's that knife that I love. Boom, boom. Open this thing brand new. All right, here you go. Everyday Essentials 10-pound bumper plate.
Oh, yes.
Look at that.
Oh, my God.
Look at that.
That's unreal.
You just watch that. How long did that take? Did it take me 10 seconds?
5 seconds, yeah.
5 seconds. And by the way, look at my biceps. I mean, I own a fitness equipment company. I own a strength and conditioning equipment company, but I'm not the strongest dude. I believe in fitness of like the CrossFit style of the 10 elements of fitness. And so I don't train for maximal strength. So what I'm trying to say is I'm not a strongman competitor that just bent. Oh, here you go.
That's crazy.
That just bent this thing until it busted. So that was, I promise you, I didn't plan that. I was going to shoot a video for our feed about that later, and so it just happened to be here. But I got on my soapbox for a 10-pound plate. So, but let's go back to what I was talking about before. So these everyday essentials, these are cheap bumper plates, and I see people say, "Oh yeah, it's a great deal." I mean, yeah, it's a great deal. All right, well, I'll just say it. It's a great deal on a piece of crap.
Right.
That sort of thought process is so foreign to me. Like, why would you spend money on something that sucks? Even if it's not a lot of money. I just don't understand it. But okay, so
yeah.
Back to the story that I was telling you though. So when I got into this, I believed in bumper plates, and it just aggravated me from the start that you basically couldn't drop 10-pound bumper plates. And so I went to almost every bumper plate factory in the US and China. And I found one. Now it's in China. I found one. And I remember when I saw the 10-pound bumper plates for the first time. They had this like interesting striation in the rubber. And I'd never seen anything like that. And so I did the little taco test that I just showed you there, and it was firm. And so then I started I put a pair of them on a bar, started dropping them over and over again. And there were some issues with the plate, but it was incredibly durable. And so I'd gotten this sample sent to me. I actually flew to China, and there was something different about that bumper plate factory. Every other bumper plate factory that I've been to was not a bumper plate factory because there were no bumper plate factories. There were tire factories and gasket factories that occasionally made bumper plates. But this was a bumper plate factory. It was founded by a young engineer who, like me, saw and believed in something. And he thought that bumper plates were going to be part of the future. So he's a rubber engineer, by the way, by his training. And so he and I teamed up, and I provided him. I'm not an engineer. If anything, I'm a salesperson. I'm a marketer. I'm a talker. But we teamed up, and I provided him my views on the market and then market feedback. And we tested and tested and tested. And we worked out those few problems that were still there on the bumper plate. So, like, for example, if the bumper plate, the durometer, is this interesting? Should I keep going with this?
Yes, this is great.
Okay,
this
cool.
Is yeah.
Okay, so you actually have to vary the durometer. If your goal is the most durable bumper plates, you have to use a different durometer of rubber for the 10 and 15 pounders than for the 25, 35, 45, 55 pounders, because you need more stiffness with the lower weights to support and dissipate the force that is applied to them. Additionally, you need a different durometer even in a single 10 or 15 pound plate itself. So what we do is we actually have a lower durometer inner ring, essentially, and then a higher durometer outer ring. So the higher durometer outer ring provides the stiffness that prevents the tacoing, and the lower durometer inner ring acts as a shock absorber that's dissipating the force that goes into the bumper that's transmitted by the ground and the bar impacting. Because you need to dissipate that force, because if you have it too stiff, then all of the force actually goes into the plate and it's not transmitted and like dissipated out, and then the plate cracks. So you have to be able to have a little bit of a low durometer to dissipate that out. Additionally, where the steel of the inner ring mates to the rubber is a major failure point, because you have the two heterogeneous materials that are combining. And so not only do we have that different durometer, we also have either these, I can't believe I'm forgetting what to call them, like poles, little pieces of rebar, essentially, that provide more surface area for the heterogeneous materials to bond to each other. And then we also do different durometer wrapped around there to enhance the bond and to make the bond together better. So I just gave you like a lot of stuff about bumper plates. So when you talk about what I'm most proud of, it's that literally before we came along, everywhere, there's even I remember there's a YouTube video that's like, don't drop the 10s. And it was made by a CrossFit gym. And it's a funny video, but they're all talking about don't drop the 10s. But I remember when I saw that, I was like, no, someone just needs to make better 10s, and then you need to buy them, obviously. But that's something that I'm really proud of, because that's now dissipated. I mean, everybody, follows on. And so not every company makes great 10-pound bumper plates, but we were innovators in this area, and we continue to innovate and to make these amazing plates. So I'm really proud of those plates.
No, that's an awesome problem that you solved. And it is crazy, because I know, like, my wife does CrossFit, goes to a CrossFit gym, and I know a lot of the workouts for women use 55, 65 pound plates, or like it's pretty common for a high rep workout where women use the 10-pound bumper plates. And it's like, you just can't use them. You don't drop them. So, and I know they broke plenty. So yeah, that's an awesome story. What about, on the other hand, product mistakes?
So let me name check two big misses. So first of all, we make this fold out from the wall rack. A lot of companies do, but we make them as well. Just to be honest, our customers were asking us for something like this for a long time, and I avoided making one for a long time because it was not congruent with my idea for how garage gyms should be used. So I have this 10 commandments of garage gyms in my mind, and one of the commandments is, thou shalt not introduce friction between you and a lift. And the fact that these racks fold back into the wall, I worry, because commandment number one of the garage gyms, use it. Commandment number one, use it. And so by introducing friction, even just 60 seconds to fold that thing out from the wall and then put the pull-up bar on there, I believe creates mental, emotional, even literal, maybe not literal, but physical friction between yourself and lifting. And so our customers were asking for one, my employees were asking us to build one, and literally for years I said no. And then finally we built one and we sold the crap out of it. Yeah. And so I was like, I missed that. Another big one that I missed was the shift to 3x3 squat racks. I missed that big. And the reason that I missed that big is that 3x3 squat rack has a lot of stability and strength benefits over, let's say, a 2x3, but it has a very key geometric weakness, which is to say that you're introducing 1 more inch, or aka 2 inches, but like 1 more inch on either side when you're racking a bar, especially from a squat. So this is a personal belief, is that it is superior to have the 2x3 architecture for actual day in, day out, like use.
Lifting.
Lifting. But the thing that I missed was that the benefits of a 3x3, especially so the squat rack should be the centerpiece of your garage gym. So if somebody said to me, hey, Pete, I want to build a garage gym, I actually have a process to talk with them about that, which is, I say goals before gear. What are your goals? What programming is going to help you to hit those goals? And then what gear do you need to hit that programming? But if they just said, I just want to, I don't really want to think about that, I just want an awesome garage gym, which, by the way, some people do. And, I'm happy to sell them a garage gym. So if that's the case, I say, okay, how much space do you have? And let's start with the squat rack. Let's start with a badass squat rack and then build out from that. Let's have that be the centerpiece of your amazing garage gym. And a 3x3 architecture squat rack is an amazing center point that you can build tons off of. And, you'll never outgrow it. So those were, and by the way, we make now the Osprey, our 3x3 rack, which is amazing. And part of what we do that's amazing about the Osprey is that many other companies are trying to lock you into their ecosystems for expansion and for components. And whenever we design components, we design them to be cross-functional with everybody else's. And we design the Osprey that you can build with other people's components off the Osprey, or you can take Osprey components and build on other people's racks. So, and we even call it open source because we will give you the plans for free. And you can go build this on your own if you like. You don't need to buy it from us. So those were a couple of misses of stuff that we were too slow on. Let's talk about a couple of misses maybe let's talk about one miss that frustrates me. Okay, I'll tell you. Oh, Jesus, I even hate to mention this. That damn Raptor air bike. That Raptor air bike. I love the bike. I hate talking about it. I hate it because we're trying
Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I'm a cyclist. I've labeled myself with many things. I ride bikes thousands of miles a year. I don't like rowing machines. I think Concept 2 makes an amazing rowing machine. By the way, Concept 2 hates me. I'm not really sure why. Give me a call, guys. I'm a cool dude. But anyways, I don't really like rowing. I love biking. I love air bikes. And I wanted to produce the best air bike for the money in the world. I'm giving a hyperbole. You see this.
Yeah.
I want to produce the best air bike for the money in the world. And so we developed an amazing air bike. I tried everybody's bike on the market, including buying most of them in the market, trying them out. We brought in tons of samples. We did tons and tons of work. And finally, we had an awesome belt-driven, super durable, overbuilt bike. And I had wanted to launch it at, I'm forgetting right now, like $699 or $749 was my target launch price point. And the pandemic hit, supply chain costs, inflation, all that stuff spiraled out of control. But I was, the CEO, I was personally, emotionally bought in to that price point. And so we still brought the bike in. And the big mistake that I made is we started selling it at that price point that the bike couldn't support.
Gotcha.
Then we got a little bit of PR on the bike. And we had already planned to raise the bike up. Because here's the thing. Let me just talk about a business real quick. If you buy a watermelon for $10 and then you sell it to somebody for $9, there's only so long you can do that before you ain't in the watermelon business anymore. So at that point, you got a choice. If you're buying the watermelon for $10, you can either sell it for $12 or you can get out of the watermelon business. So with the Raptor, we had and we have an amazing bike, but we can't sell it for $9 or $699 or $749.
Yeah.
Right now we're selling it for $949. If we're going to sell it, it needs to be at that price. Otherwise, we're going to get out of the watermelon business to keep throttling this metaphor a little bit further. But there's a certain type of person that goes crazy over this. And I think they think that, like, I'm getting wildly rich on Raptor air bike sales. Now, to be clear, I'm not doing so bad in life, but the Raptor air bike ain't the item that's getting me there. It paid for 0% of this Rolex. So yeah, so that's it. It's a great bike. I ride on it. It's in my personal garage gym. I ride on it many times a week, and I love riding on it. But there's a certain small part of people who have garage gyms that the whole Raptor bike episode, it activates the crazy part of their brain. And I while I understand that, it's also
yeah.
You know how it is. If you don't like it, don't buy it. I mean, I'm sorry to be glib like that, but there you go.
Yeah.
So that
interesting. Good to have some backstory on that. All right. What about the home gym, the garage gym revolution? You know, we hit COVID, and I feel like it's kind of leveling out a little bit. What needs to happen to make sure it keeps rising or not happen?
So what needs to happen there? And here's like my biggest problem. So you and me, we are preaching to the choir. When we talked before about being hardcore or whatever, there are so many people out there who don't know about this stuff. You and people who are watching this, you don't realize how much you know about gyms and lifting and strength. Like, you may not be a personal trainer. You may not have a background in kinesiology or exercise science or something like that, but you know so much about strength training. And when people come with beginner questions, they get straight roasted in these Facebook groups and on YouTube and stuff like that. That's the most corrosive thing that you can do. If your daughter, I've got daughters, so let's call it daughter. If your daughter came to you and said, hey, Daddy, I don't know how to work a can opener, would you be like, you're so stupid. How can you not know how to work a can opener? Well, maybe your daughter has never opened a can before. So you certainly wouldn't respond, you're so stupid, let's roast this chick for not knowing how to use a can opener. You'd say, here, honey, let me show you how to use a can opener. And by the way, next time she goes to open a can, she's probably going to know how to use a can opener. So when somebody online asks a question like, and here's one that gets on my craw, hey guys, what's the best squat pad to buy? You know, my shoulders hurt when I put the bar on there. And then I tell you, anybody who asks that, I guarantee you in the comment section, somebody's going to say they're right next to the tampons. Yeah. I guarantee you that somebody's going to say that. And that's bullshit. Teach them. And just in case you're wondering, if you're a newbie that's watching this, you don't need a squat pad. That pain in your traps is going to go away in about 2 weeks. So just power through for about 2 weeks, and then that bar on your traps is going to feel good because you're going to be fighting mean old Mr. Gravity, and you're going to be accessing that dopamine. And by the way, if you don't want to wait 2 weeks, just buy any one on Amazon. If that's what you want to do. They're all fine. It's just a piece of foam. Or if you don't want to do that, just go to your linen closet and grab a towel and just wrap that bar in towel a little bit. And there you go. So the number one thing to keep this going, like there's momentum. You know, it's that snowball rolling down the hill. The number one thing that can stop that momentum is being a jerk to these people who are trying to join the Garage Gym Revolution. They don't know. Help them out. Don't roast them. And I mean, there's a difference between joy in the gym and jerk in the gym. So introduce them to the joy and push away that jerk. They're just trying to make a change in their life. You were once them.
Cool. That's awesome. Great way to put it. I think we ran through everything on my list. You answered a lot of the questions I had that I didn't have to ask. But is there anything else you want to chat about just while we're here?
I talked about joy in the gym. If you've watched now until the end, I would love it if you would check us out at www.fringesport.com. But what I would really love is if you go lift something heavy today. I have a purpose-driven company. We believe in improving lives through strength. Maybe we're doing something that you dig and you want to check us out, and that's great. Or maybe you just enjoyed seeing me tear apart somebody's bumper plate, or you think that I'm a clown or whatever. Like, go lift something heavy today. Pick something up and put it down and have some joy in your gym. That's all that I want.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time. Everyone go check out fringesport.com. That's gonna do it.